Yeah, Stephen Miller went on Charlie Kirk's show. Or no, Real America's Voice, sorry. Is this the JD Vance one? Stephen Miller blames a vast Democrat domestic terror movement and says the White House will use the DOJ and DHS resources to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy. What's really funny about this is like, if there was any sort of seriousness here, okay, if there was any sort of sincerity with like good governance or anything like that, the DOJ already actually released an investigation into which side is responsible for more violence, more domestic terror. But the answer is something that Republicans don't like. So they deleted that investigation. They conducted an investigation into which ideological leaning is responsible for a larger percentage of terror. And they just didn't like the answers to that question. They deleted it during Mike's stream yesterday as he was reading it, lol. Yeah. You got the link for that? I'm trying to cook some dumbass. I mean, it's not just the DOJ's own investigation. I think that there's multiple investigations that have been conducted onto this. This is on the Wayback Machine now because unfortunately, the National Institute of Justice has deleted the link that isn't archived. Militant, nationalistic, white supremacist, and violent extremism is increasing in the United States. In fact, the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives. In the same period, far-left extremists committed 42 ideologically motivated attacks that took 78 lives. A recent threat assessment by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security concluded that domestic violent extremists are an acute threat and highlighted a probability that COVID-19 pandemic-related stressors, longstanding ideological grievances related to immigration, and narratives surrounding electoral fraud will continue to serve as a justification for violent actions. But hey, they deleted it, so it doesn't exist anymore. You know, you can just act like that's not the case. You can just act like that's not the case, guys. Come on. As long as you just delete it, it doesn't exist. It's not like, I mean, this is, when it first came out, I covered it, obviously. I covered it extensively because it's a pretty significant thing. It's a pretty big deal. This is the Department of Justice itself basically admitting what we have known from external investigations, but this is more so an internal investigation. So, like, we knew this already. This is not a secret. I mean, you know this from just like looking at the profiles of all of the even recent mass shootings, for example. Like, but of course, the government is using this as an opportunity. Never let a crisis go to waste. The government is using this as an opportunity to attack the left. Yeah, but it was published under the Biden admin, so it's biased. Yeah, except under the Biden admin, the DOJ was also still very much in the hands of like people whose ideological profile were not lifelong Democrats. Okay, that's the difference. Democrats love to come across as impartial. They love to come across as impartial. They love to have like these sorts of things happen in the hands of lifelong Republicans, as a matter of fact. If you look at like heads of the DOJ, if you look at attorneys generals, or if you look at like the head of the FBI, for example, it has consistently been right-wingers, both under Democrat leadership and Republican ones. Now, of course, it still doesn't matter. If you fall for the left-right rhetoric, you are a noob in morals. It should be down versus up. Otherwise, the oligarchy has made you a sheep in their planned civil war. I know that. And I don't do that regardless. But the problem is the current way in which they are enacting this kind of over prosecutorial, like this kind of persecution, is from a left-right dynamic. So I have to address it from that perspective as well. Lamont, up versus down is left versus right for people who get it spoon-fed backwards. I know. Up versus down is left versus right for the most part as well. Like, what is right-wing violence? Right-wing violence is enacting vengeance upon a group of people that have the exact same class perspective as you do, but you're so brain broken into thinking that they are somehow your enemy